All right, let's get this show on the road. Busy season, holiday season here. Christmas is just 9 days away. Wow, it's crazy. But, welcome to the podcast. I'm Greg Heitmann, the host of the podcast, the Colonel and the Kid podcast. This is episode 17, chapter 17, the Minnesota Twins and Reggie Jackson. And that's a weird title, but we'll talk about that more coming up when we read the chapter. But welcome, Tuesday, December 16th, 2025. I can't believe it. I just have a few more days and I will be officially retired. It's really weird to think about. But anyway, this is the Colonel and the Kid podcast. And of course, I'm the kid, Greg Heitmann, the host. And the podcast is dedicated to my grandfather. He's the Colonel. And it's my mom's dad. And his name was Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. And he's my maternal grandfather. So I wrote this memoir to record his life, and I did the podcast to put it in more of in a video form, electronic form, to record that for posterity. So the Colonel and the Kid portion of it, that's the spine of the podcast, and then I have my recurring segments. I branch out from there. Got some stuff today to hopefully share, and I'm thinking about doing a podcast maybe on Thursday or Friday to get one more chapter in as we wind down this. I'm going to call it the first season, which is volume 1 of the memoir. And once I get volume 2 completed, which will be the next 20 chapters, then we'll start that second season of that and go from there. But for today, I just wanted to introduce the podcast, and we'll get right to it, to the usual format, which I've hit upon now, is just I'll read the podcast and or I'll read the chapter into the podcast. Then anybody that doesn't want to listen to the rest of the segments, they can just, fall off or stop listening and do whatever they want and go from there. But I guess I should mention I'm wearing a special shirt today because of the subject of this chapter. And you can see it's my Minnesota Twins jersey. So this is a baseball themed show and chapter, and go from there. Weirdly, I couldn't find my Minnesota Twins baseball cap, so I'm hatless today, and no headphones for those just listening. And if you're just listening, you're missing out on the shirt. My jersey, my Minnesota Twins jersey that I purchased, and it's personalized, has my name on the back and everything, and my old number 11. That was my baseball number when I played baseball a long, long time ago. So anyway, I thought if I went through the trouble of actually getting the jersey out and wearing it, I should mention it. And I almost forgot before I read the chapter. But anyway, this is a little longer chapter. It's got some more photos in it. So I'm going to just jump right in and we'll get to today's chapter. And this is the Colonel and the Kid podcast, chapter 17. Well, the Colonel and the Kid memoir on the Colonel and the Kid podcast. Chapter 17, the Minnesota Twins and Reggie Jackson. Obviously, it may sound weird the way the title of the chapter is the Minnesota Twins and Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson did play for the Minnesota Twins, but the Minnesota Twins did play against Reggie Jackson back in the heyday of the New York Yankees. And I did see Reggie Jackson play, and that's what this chapter is kind of about, and kind of features one of the greatest baseball players of that era. And it's interesting to me, and it was a real feature in my life, I guess. So that's why it's got its own special chapter. So let's just jump right in and read the chapter. Chapter 17, the Minnesota Twins and Reggie Jackson. And we start with a quote. And I think it's very appropriate since this chapter includes and is titled, the title includes Reggie Jackson. I thought we'd have a quote from Reggie Jackson himself. And that quote is, quote, "Fans don't boo nobodies," end quote. So let's start the chapter. I was 8 years old in the summer of 1977. This was the year I went to the big city and saw the Minnesota Twins play in person. I still have the program. And for those not watching the video podcast, just listening, I have a picture of that program from 1977, and I'll read the caption and then describe a little more. So it's the caption says, "This is a photo of the cover of the program from my first Major League Baseball game in 1977. It makes me laugh because they have a large photo of the manager featured." I guess it says something about the lack of stars on the team at the time. To describe the program a little bit in the photo, it says official program and scorecard, Minnesota Twins on the left side of the program, and it's vertically printed on the left side on a red background, black lettering, official program and scorecard, and then white lettering, Minnesota Twins, and Minnesota Twins is in all caps, and official program and scorecard is in all small letters. And the main picture is Gene Mock running out from the dugout. He's, I guess, to make a, or maybe he's running back to the dugout. I don't know exactly what the picture really is, but it's in his home white Minnesota Twins uniform. He's number 4 for the Twins. And it was 1977 on the very top of the program in white lettering. You can barely see it, and against the crowd because the crowd's in the background. It's in bright sunlight, and they're mostly wearing lighter colored clothes. And behind Gene Mock in the photo it looks like the catcher from the other team, and I can't tell who it is or what team it is, but looks like he's got a catcher's mitt there. And at the very bottom of the program, and you can see it vividly because it's against the dark background of some padding against the stadium wall there, it says 50 cents for that program back then. So back to the chapter. Grandpa arranged the trip to Minneapolis that included Grady, my dad, and Dan, my Aunt Kathy's husband. It was a seminal moment in my life. It cemented sports as a pillar in what I am comprised. It also begs a question. Do we get to decide on what we like, or are we just told by our parents and loved ones who we are and have those selections reinforced? I tend to lean in the direction that we inherit the vast majority of our opinions from our parents. This was especially true in the earlier days of sports, where regional information was primarily featured in the media. So where you grew up, your local media piled on the coverage of those teams in your area, and you were constantly bombarded with information. Eventually, you succumbed to subconsciousness influencing and were a fan of the local team whether you liked it or not. Thus, growing up primarily in North Dakota and South Dakota, I was predestined to be a Minnesota Twins and Minnesota Vikings fan. It's what you got. Television contracts dictated what team you saw in your region. All I have to do is provide Exhibit A, the NFL, and how they controlled your coverage in your locale then and now. Major League Baseball came later to worship at the altar of monopolies, as Major League Baseball's extra innings has all those blackout rules where you can't see games due to exclusivity of cable companies. Just look at your sports TV coverage today and you'll see the influence of money. The sports cartels have been dented a little in modern times, and with a bit of cash, you can purchase your team's TV coverage in faraway locations. But in the old days, you got what was provided, and you liked it. Even more, you were thankful for it. It reminds me of a saying based on a quote that I will paraphrase, but attributed to NBC television producer Dick Ebersol. Quote, "If you ever have a question about anything, the answer is always money," end quote. But I digress. The Minnesota Twins were my team, and I had parenthetically still my team. I'm wearing the jersey. I had been seduced by the big red machine, the Cincinnati Reds, because they were World Series champions. And that's how psychology works. The media presents an overwhelming amount of info, and guess what? Young, impressionable children get captured by the coverage. They associate with being a winner, and suddenly you have a generation of frontrunners. I've witnessed the phenomenon, and I was part of it. Like I said, the Reds and Johnny Bench and company in the Reds' magical run in the 1970s, the Reds were my team. And here I have a photo of one of my early baseball cards, a 1977 set of Topps baseball cards. They had this card in there. I'll read the caption and describe. These Topps baseball cards with action photos fascinated me as a kid. So this card, it's not your typical portrait of a player or anything. This is a landscape baseball card. And at the top, it says NL Championship. And there's a little pennant there, 1976. And then there's a photo. It's Pete Rose in his away uniform, a Cincinnati Reds uniform. Looks like he's rounding second, coming to third base. And I think it's Mike Schmidt at third base, number 10, I believe. And they're playing in Philadelphia. And then in the background, you can see, looks like the outfielder is just released, throwing the ball towards third base. And there's Pete Rose, number 14, the hit king himself, running towards third base. No helmet, just both feet are off the ground as he runs. It's a pretty cool picture that made the baseball card. And at the bottom of the baseball card, it says Reds sweep Phillies 3 in a row. So that was the NL Championship baseball card that was included with that full set. And then I have a bunch more Cincinnati Reds baseball cards, and I'll talk about them and the way they look and the way they are. And so I have 4 of them on this page, and these were the NL All-Stars from the Cincinnati Reds. And the first one was George Foster. He was a big power hitter, outfielder for the Reds, and he's right-handed hitter. In the baseball card, he's standing there, just a portrait of him from the waist up, holding his bat, looking like he's looking towards the pitcher. You can see the baseball field in the background. He's just wearing his regular baseball cap, not a batting helmet or anything, and staring intently ahead. And these are cool cards because they got the simulated autograph on them. So they all have signatures across the front of their card. And then to the right of that top card on the upper right, it's the Reds, Joe Morgan, second baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. He was an NL All-Star that year too. And it's him standing in front of the empty dugout and stands. There's nobody in the stands. Well, there's a couple of people in the dugout, but I don't know. There's looks like another player and a couple of civilians just street clothes there. But, Joe Morgan looks like he's just. I think he was pretty sure he was a switch hitter, and looks like he's just taken a swing left-handed and completed the swing as a lefty batter would. And so it's a pretty good baseball card photo too. I really like that. And I'll add too that I really enjoyed Joe Morgan. For many years, he did the color commentary on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball back when that was relevant in sports. Did that for many years, and that was sort of a featured thing in the summertime. And when there wasn't so many baseball games that were televised, it was just on the cusp of getting all these Major League Baseball's extra innings, where you could just order all the games and watch them on DirecTV or some of your other cable systems, and you could see your favorite team from wherever you were in the country, unless you were in the blackout region. But Joe Morgan, significant announcing career after baseball too. Really enjoyed his work. And then here on the bottom row, the other NL All-Stars, Pete Rose, third baseman for the Cincinnati Reds. And he's got the photo on his baseball card is him in the field, and he's crouched over, ready for the pitch and getting ready for the possible hit towards him at third base. And he's got sunglasses, flip-up sunglasses on underneath his baseball cap, and they're flipped up. And like I said, he's crouched over. Pretty good, pretty interesting photo. Non-standard photo is what I would say for the baseball cards at that time. Topps was pretty much they were the dominant force at that time for baseball cards. Little later, there came to be a lot more competition. There was other cards, but just nowhere near that had the gravity or grasp of the market as Topps did back then. And then finally on this page in the bottom right-hand corner, it's the catcher for the Cincinnati Reds, the big red machine back then. It's Johnny Bench, and he was sort of my model baseball player that I wanted to be. He was the catcher and just the leader of that team and just a solid player himself. And he's got a real he's like he's in a batting stance, a real close up just of his shoulder and his head, just his face, this complete portrait of his of a you know you can't see a bat or anything. You can just see that he's looks like he's in a batting stance looking towards where the pitch would be. And pretty cool photo. I enjoyed that. And then moving on to some other significant Cincinnati Reds players. Picture of the baseball card of Tony Perez. He was the first baseman on that Cincinnati Reds championship team. It's a pretty cool photo too, because he's got a baseball bat and he's swinging it, but he's like stopped the swing and he's holding it right in front of the camera. So the barrel of the bat's like right in front of the camera, and then he's holding it kind of smiling and looking at the camera. Enjoy that one. Dynamic than just the portrait. And then the other player single baseball card photo I have is Ken Griffey. It's not even Ken Griffey Sr. at the time, just Ken Griffey. Cincinnati Reds outfielder. And he's holding the bat and smiling, not really in a batting stance, just kind of holding the bat up. He's a left-handed batter looking at the camera, and it's like from the shoulders up and the top of his head. And it's not a really good photo because he's got his baseball cap on, and the way the sun is most of his face is in the shade. So it's kind of a poor photo, but he's got a big smile, and it's okay. It's kind of a little bit memorable in that it's most of the top of his third of his face is in shadow though. So, and then finally for the Cincinnati Reds, I'll read the caption of this last photo of the big red machine. The team photo Topps baseball card featuring manager Sparky Anderson, born in Bridgewater, South Dakota. And I thought I just had to put that in there. It's a team photo of all the Reds players and coaches and trainers. And then on the featured at the bottom of the card is a small photo of Sparky Anderson, the manager. And it's like a little pennant shaped thing, and his face appears there. His name appears there in the pennant itself. And then below that says manager. So like the big red machine, really my first exposure to winning baseball. So I was kind of always a fan of the Reds because that was kind of my indoctrination and initiation into Major League Baseball. And I wanted to be a winner like the Cincinnati Reds. So I kind of like them. Not as much as my Twins though. As I continue the chapter here, I came to my senses eventually thanks to support from my family, but probably mostly from Grandpa taking us to see my first game in the Minnesota Twins. Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington, Minnesota was the venue. I don't have all the details at my disposal, but there are some vivid images and memories associated with that event that I can recall. First and foremost was the idea of being accepted into the tribe of men. This was our men's trip, originated from Siston over to the Twin Cities and then back. We were on our own, much like pheasant hunting. This was an initiation, a rite of passage of manly endeavors. Hold on a sec. I just remembered that Grandpa took Grady and I to a sporting goods store and bought us baseballs to take to the game for autographs. I still have that baseball. It is in the chest where I keep the horse comb. See Chapter 5 for more information on the horse comb. And then I have a photo of the baseball here, and I'll read the caption. Here's a photo of the baseball Grandpa bought at a sporting goods store in Minneapolis before my first Twins game. I was supposed to get some autographs, but it didn't happen. It's been stored in my treasure chest for almost 50 years. And special event today because I have that baseball right here. I found that little treasure chest I was missing. It's right back there. There's the chest that holds a lot of trinkets and treasures and stuff, including this baseball. And making a special appearance today because I did find that. Here is the horse comb that I couldn't find for the chapter 5, I think it was. And this is the actual horse comb that Grandpa gave me when I was a kid because I never combed my hair. And you can see, it works. But big day today when I finally found that box that treasure chest was in. It's actually an old a Winchester ammunition box, just a decorative one. Wasn't like originally used for ammo or anything like that. But I got it for Christmas when I was probably a teenager. And I've had it ever since, and just put a bunch of junk in there and all my little trinkets and treasures, mementos from over the years, including this baseball. And it says, if you can't see the podcast, you're missing out on a lot today because as the photo indicated too, but you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but it says in very light, it's kind of worn away. It's a regulation league. So it wasn't an official Major League Baseball. It was for like kids baseball or Legion baseball or high school baseball. Made by Wilson, leather cover. It says A1157 cork and rubber center, which is interesting to me. I don't know if you've ever taken a baseball apart, but it's basically leather stitched together with red stitches. And inside it's yarn wrapped around a cork in a cork ball and then I think there's a rubber ball around that cork or vice versa. I don't even know. And then I believe it says that this was made in Haiti on the back here, but it's so faded and hard to see, hard to read. But if I remember it, I'm pretty sure it was made in Haiti, which is weird because I don't think they make anything in Haiti anymore. That's just like a country in total chaos. They've had those earthquakes down there and just been a disaster area ever since. But they used to make baseballs. Pretty weird. Anyway, pretty good sidebar today on the chapter. And then I have another picture. And I'll put these pictures into the video podcast when I'm done. But for those watching the podcast, you can see that there's a picture, and I'll read the caption. Here's a photo of my treasure chest and the baseball from Minneapolis. This is where the horse comb resides, along with lots of other mementos. So it's just a close-up picture of the Winchester ammo box replica. It's not a real ammo box, like I said. And it's got a little broken padlock that I have there to hold down the latch. I found that, and that could be featured on Look What I Found segment of the podcast, but I use that. It's kind of like a little decorative padlock, and it's hanging there in this picture. It's got that cool, the photo of the self on top of the Winchester ammo box here. It's got that cool Winchester Western logo with a cowboy riding a horse, and looks like he's cradling a rifle in his arm. Left arm and kind of whipping the horse as the horse is running across the prairie. It's the classic Winchester logo. So anyway, back to the chapter. The big city was pretty intimidating for me. We went on a city bus through downtown Minneapolis. The big buildings shaded the streets. It was nothing I'd ever seen before. Claustrophobic. It planted seeds in my head at an early age. I don't mind visiting the big city, but don't make me live there, and the shorter the visit, the better. It's very foggy to me, but I think we stayed at Arden's place. Arden was a cousin of Grandma, and he was a frequent reveler at the annual pheasant hunting trip in Siston with my grandpa. Those details are trivial, and it makes sense that I have no significant imagery of such particulars. What does stand out is the ballpark. It wasn't downtown, so the hustle and bustle of the high-rise office buildings and the hum of the business district was in the distance. But for me, it was sensory overload being in the city environment. And when we got inside Met Stadium, as Metropolitan Stadium was called, it was serenity. That's why a baseball stadium is called a park. There's a peace in the venue, accented by the grass field that you don't find in most other sporting events. I don't think the Twins were terrible, but it didn't seem like there was much of a crowd. Maybe it was a midweek evening game. However, it was against the New York Yankees. It seemed like it was midsummer, and that would mean starting the game in the daylight and finishing under the lights. And then I have another group of photos here of the 1977 Twins baseball cards. That's the caption is a few cards representing the Minnesota Twins from 1977 Topps baseball card collection. And these are in my collection. And there's 6 cards here. I'll talk about them. And first one's Butch Weiniger. And I think this is a photo of his, just like a swing follow through. Is from his about the the middle of his thighs up, and he's wearing the baby blue Twins uniform. And I think he was a Topps AL all rookie team Topps team, and he's got a little trophy on the bottom of his baseball card. So I think he was a rookie that year, rookie catcher. He's pretty good. I think he eventually played with the New York Yankees later in his career. And then in the middle of the top row, it's Dan Ford, outfielder. I don't remember anything about him. And then another player, Larry Heisel. He was an outfielder. I don't really remember him either, but Dan Ford's, he's in the typical pose where he's batting right-handed, and he's just holding the baseball bat up like he's in a stance and wearing a baseball cap, just kind of a scowl on his face. And then there's Larry Heisel. He's just standing there, his Twins number 9 jersey, smiling, not doing anything, just from his middle of his abdomen up to the top of his head, and he's just standing there. And then at the bottom row, bottom left, is Rod Carew, one of the greatest hitters of all time, really, especially in that era. Probably the top 2 or 3 greatest hitters of his era. And he was an AL All-Star that year. He was the first baseman for the Twins, played a few years for the Twins, and then played for mostly, I think, for the Angels. I'm not sure if he played for anybody else. And then, of course, in the bottom row middle, there's Roy Smalley. He was one of the more famous Twins. He was a shortstop. So in his baseball card, he's just following through on his left-handed batting swing. And I should describe Rod Carew, because Rod Carew's got a non-standard baseball card picture. He's at first base, and he's stretching out his glove, and he's got his foot on his base, and you can see the outfielder is in the blurry in the background, right above his glove. So it's kind of an interesting photo where it's like an action photo. Maybe they took it during spring training or something, but good photo, good non-standard baseball card photo. And then finally, there's Lyman Bostock, outfielder. Don't really remember him, and I think there might be some more information on him that I should share, but I can't remember if it's right. Let me look real quick and see if that's what I think it is. He's in a typical left-handed batter stance, just standing in the outfield, it looks like. And he's, from about his waist up in the Twins baby blue uniform, and he's got the classic. He's got a batting helmet on, but it doesn't have any ear flaps. So it's a classic Twin style one where it was the multicolored. It had the red brim with the white front plate and dark blue background, and then has the TC on it for Twin Cities on it. And he was, Lyman Bostock was, I think there was a podcast about him specifically, and he was, I think is the only player to be killed. He was murdered during the season. He was shot to death during the baseball season itself, when he's originally from Gary, Indiana. And he was playing for, I think he went to the California Angels after the Twins, and he was playing for the Angels, and he was from Gary, Indiana, which is close to Chicago. And I think they were playing Chicago while he was with the California Angels, and went to visit some family members, and was murdered. And the guy, I guess the guy that was accused of doing it was never convicted. So So there's a whole episode podcast about his murder. It's worth checking out because he's the only Major League Baseball player to be murdered during the season. And of course, really not solved, but unpunished by the guy. They tried to interview the guy that is still alive, I guess, the guy that murdered him. So anyway, not unhappy note. We'll go back to the chapter. I don't remember the game at all. The highlight of the experience was Reggie Jackson's pregame routine. We weren't there in time for batting practice, but we arrived with plenty of time before the game. I'm not going to swear to the location of our seats, but it seemed like we had excellent seats, maybe 15 to 20 rows back from the visitors' dugout, near home plate, but edging down the first baseline. We sat in our seats, and down by the dugout was Reggie Jackson leaning over the roof of the dugout, arms folded, rest on the dugout, engaged in conversation with fans. Grandpa told Grady and I go see if Reggie would sign our programs. The baseballs had been forgotten back at the house in all our excitement. We hesitatingly made our way down to the crowd around Reggie, where we found out before even asking that he wasn't signing anything. With a wave of both hands over his head, he stated, "I'm just here to talk." And I don't remember any of the conversation or anything we said. And I have some photos here of the Reggie Jackson baseball cards. There's a couple of different cards. I'll read the caption here. Reggie Jackson baseball cards from the 1977 Topps collection. It's still a treat to look at these cards. I flipped through the cards so much as a kid, a lot of the images are just burned into my memories. You can just get a hint of Reggie's afro under his batting helmet. So it's one of the classic things about the 1970s and these baseball cards. And there's two cards here from Reggie Jackson, and I'll talk about them. One on the left, it's just like a head and shoulders portrait, like a school portrait picture, and Reggie's got his kind of like tinted glasses. They're not like fully sunglasses, but maybe just shaded enough. Maybe that's what he wanted for batting and hitting. But he's wearing the no ear flaps batting helmet, and he's got underneath the helmet, kind of got the afro sticking out a little bit, and he's got just a mustache, which I think was violating. Maybe it wasn't a violation of the Yankees policy. I don't think they were allowed to have facial hair under the ownership at the time, George Steinbrenner. And then the photo that's on the right side, it's the same year, but it's just a different picture from the 1977 card. And Reggie Jackson was an outfielder, and he's a left-handed batter, and he's just taking a batting stance. He's got his batting helmet on, and this one's a little shinier batting helmet because you can see that little script NY. It's being reflected off the brim of the batting helmet, and you can kind of see a little bit of his afro underneath the batting helmet there. It's not as big an afro as the other photo. And he's kind of looking off in the distance as he holds the bat in batting stance. And then this is just a head and shoulders again. And he's got his mustache too. And I don't know, it seems weird that he had a mustache, because I'm pretty sure they had no facial hair policy back then. But anyway, back to the chapter. I was too young to really appreciate the experience. There is a rich context and history to look back on now. Reggie Jackson was part of the World Series championship in 1977, and in Game 6 of the World Series, he hit 3 home runs and was given the famous moniker of Mr. October. This is significant in that my mom, with directions from my dad, woke up the kids to witness Reggie's final at-bat of that game, which was a chance to hit a 3rd home run in a World Series game. That feat had only been done by Babe Ruth. He did it. If you don't think witnessing that left an impression on a young boy, you don't know anything about psychology. I'm sure I never thanked my parents for waking me up to let me see that home run live. So now I say thank you. And it's in the record, parenthetically, I add. It was a different time in the 1970s, and the 1977 World Series championship for the Yankees was the first for owner George Steinbrenner. I can still envision the antics of manager Billy Martin and Reggie Jackson arguing in the dugout. And later, the hot and cold relationship between Steinbrenner and Martin, fired and rehired multiple times. I can relate to the emotions of wanting to win. I'm a now mature 50-plus-year-old man, but let's just say that I wasn't always so calm, cool, and collected as a player on the field, court, or course. In my ongoing self-analysis, I can recognize a slight character flaw within myself. Clinical psychologists have a term for it: sore loser. For me, it'll never go away. Just ask anyone who's played with or against me on family game night. I'm a little better and realize it's more enjoyable when winning isn't the name of the game, but fun is. Grandpa didn't arbitrarily pick a Yankees game for us to go see. He respected seeing the best, and Reggie Jackson, along with the Yankees, were the best at that time, and we saw them. We may not like the Yankees, but we respect quality. Reggie Jackson was a star, a big-time baseball star. You have to remember, this was an era that included Reggie Jackson having a candy bar named after him. Plus, on a personal level, my mom had a perm, and much to her chagrin, Grandpa affectionately referred to her as Reggie because of her hairstyle. Mom continued to perm her hair for many years, and routinely after a trip to the salon, the family would break out the chant, "Reggie, Reggie, Reggie." So, oh my God. I have a photo here of my mom. This is from 1978, and this is this is my 9th birthday, and my mom's at the forefront of the photo. And so the caption reads, "My mom with her afro on display on my 9th birthday in 1978." So my mom is sitting at the kitchen table, and in front of us, I'm holding I don't, you can barely tell that I'm even in the picture, but I'm there because I'm holding a present in the background. I don't know what it was, but it's a big rectangular wrapped present with my name on it. And I'm just looking barely over the top of it. You can see my eyes and the top of my head and my hair. And then Garrett's off to my left, and he's wearing a Dallas Cowboys sweatshirt for some reason. And my mom is in the front of the picture, and she's got her big afro. And she's looking, not even looking at the camera, she's looking off to the, off to the side of the camera. And then featured on the table of the kitchen table there is my birthday cake. And I think it's a bowling pin and a bowling ball, but it kind of looks like a tube sock and a hockey puck. I'm not really not really sure. I don't really remember. I think it was maybe I wanted to go bowling or something for my bowling birthday party or something, but I don't think we did. I don't think we ever went bowling when we lived in Billings. This is 1978. We lived in Billings, Montana for that one year. And I really like the background of the photo, though, because it's got, in the background on the wall, it's got this God's eye woven yarn thing that I think from Turtle Mountain Indian Reservation. And there's just like a commercial printed photo, kind of in the same matching colors of the orange, gold, and browns of a singular tree on the prairie, with no leaves, and it's just, kind of at sunset, just a printed painting or something. And then in the corner, there's like an oil lamp sitting on a stand in the corner. That's really pretty cool. So that's a very nostalgic photo there. So anyway, finish up the chapter here. I have more on sports in the upcoming chapters, but I wanted to highlight the life lesson Grandpa shared here. That is the love of sports and how it builds character. Being a fan bonds you with family and other fans through thick and thin, all the ups and downs. Playing sports provides numerous lessons from teamwork to understanding competition. These two traits, teamwork and competition, are building blocks for America. Sports were a constant common thread in our family and still are today. Do you want to enjoy something and bond together? Consider sports. Even if you can't play anymore, you can still be part of a team as a fan. So, as always, we end the chapter with a quote. And again, it's another quote from Reggie Jackson. So, um, here's his quote. The quote: "The pitcher has the ball, and nothing happens until he lets go of it. So as a batter, I felt I had to fight for any bit of control I could get. I expected the umpire, the catcher, and the pitcher to wait on me. I wanted to get ready on my time." End quote. So it's funny, especially now that modern baseball in just the last 3 or 4 years, I can't remember now how long it's been, but now they have a pitch clock. So if the pitcher doesn't throw the ball within 30 seconds, that it's going to be called a ball. And then if the batter's not in the batter's box ready to go, then he can get a strike called on him now. So back in the day when Reggie Jackson was playing, though, there was no pitch clock or anything like that, and you could take as much time as you wanted to, adjusting your batting gloves, digging in, doing all this stuff to get ready, and then finally, then you could signal that you were ready for the pitcher to throw the ball, basically. But that's long gone now, and I like that quote because it shows you that things change, even though the baseball's been around since what, the 1860s, probably around Civil War time when it was first really initiated as a sport. So we're talking like 150 some years, 160 years, maybe getting close to 160 years. And baseball is still evolving, that you can actually have a pitch clock on something, and on something like that where there was no timed clock for all those years, and then suddenly you have a clock involved with baseball. It's 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 good. It's interesting that it finally is adapting a little bit because the games are getting too long. They're going for some games are going 4+ hours just to play 9 innings, and you can't have that in modern baseball because of money again, because you have TV rights and TV needs to have commercials, and TV schedule has to have a time frame when the next program comes on. So you want to kind of wrap it up in some sort of um, estimated time frame. So I think it's really baseball is a really good game to learn a lot of lessons in the whole chapter. And I think I talked about what the lesson was here. That's about sports and how it could build character, I guess, and learn lessons, and going back to the understanding the competition of life and how that's portrayed literally out there on the baseball field. And it's implied in everything we do, where you want to be the best you can be, and you want to beat the other people, whether you're a salesman or you're, I guess, whatever your job is. I think about for sales and quite a bit of things, but if you want to be the best, whatever, the best doctor or your best surgeon, so that you can be treating all the patients and have a good reputation, you're competing with the other surgeons or anything like that, or whatever it is, whether you're the best plumber, you provide the best service, and the competition, it breeds more business and more money for you if you're the best, and you build that reputation. Just like in sports, if you're the best hitter, then you can get the most money, in sort of that example, I guess. And then again, there's the teamwork example for baseball. Um, the teamwork that's involved in almost any job you have out there, whether it's, again, even if you're a surgeon, you have nurses and technicians that are helping you do your job. You got to have that teamwork to be able to complete the task. So I think it's a good example that my grandpa showed us grandkids about sports and lessons that go with it. So I would also say that one of the lessons here that maybe I didn't expand or expound or declare enough here was that my grandpa really respected quality and pursued that himself, to have good tools, and by going to see the best competition that was out there for the Twins. They were, it was the New York Yankees, and back in those days it was the American League teams only played American League teams. You didn't get a chance to see the Cincinnati Reds. The Big Red Machine never came to Minnesota. back in those days because they were the National League. So you only saw the American League, and only time you played the National League from the American League was during the All-Star game or in the World Series. So that was, you know, a good lesson too about respecting quality, even if it wasn't your team, and if they were good, you still had to, respect them as a team and respect other quality, whatever it is. And I always think of my grandpa and the guns that he had, the rifles and the shotguns that he decided he was going to buy. They were pretty, to me, I think the best quality, the best function. Maybe they cost a little more, and believe me, he didn't have much money extra to spend on stuff, but save up, not buy the first cheapest thing that you could buy just to have it, save up the money and buy good quality. So anyway, it's a couple good lessons from that chapter. Um, I think I'm going to, when we get through the first volume of the podcast and the first 20 chapters, I'm going to put together probably a little summary sheet of all those lessons and try to clarify them a little more. Maybe just have a whole podcast about each chapter and what I consider the lesson in each one. And maybe I didn't do a good job in the actual writing of this of this memoir to really clarify what the lesson was in the chapter that I was trying to share. So more work to do, more work I'm assigning to myself. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter. So those people that are here for just the Colonel and the Kid memoir podcast portion of it, the chapter today, chapter 17, the Minnesota Twins and Reggie Jackson, you're free. You're free to go, and I will send you off with the holiday wishes and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So it's some more coming up before the holiday season's done. So subscribe and make sure you get notice when they hit so you can enjoy them. But all right, you're free to go, and we're going to go on to the next section. And today we have a couple things going on, and you can drink water, and we'll push forward. So, of course, we have the NFL Week 15 update. So we'll go from the Week 15 picks that I made and summary of the week that was for the NFL, and not too bad. 11-5 on the picks this week. 16 games, 11 wins, 5 losses for 11 correct, 5 incorrect for me. So, I mean, that brought me to 148 correct and 75 incorrect on the year. Not too bad. Again, still sitting there at 66%, 2 out of 3. And I mean, it's nothing to be ashamed of, I guess, really. I am, like I said, I'm trying to get 70% is the goal, but we're not achieving it. So we're underperforming for my picks. And, all you can do is try. I'm in the game competing. Probably better than some, worse than some. Who knows? Let's go over Week 15 results, and then we'll go on to my picks for Week 16, get ahead of that game. I'll be like 2 days ahead of what I've been usually. I've been slow on the draw here for podcasting a couple weeks in a row, but today we're on it. So, of course, I think I jinxed myself last week when I said I was trying to get 16-0, have a perfect record. And the Thursday night game, I, of course, got it wrong. The Falcons beat the Buccaneers. I'd picked the Buccaneers. And a couple things on this one I wanted to point out, and this is my recurring theme for officiating on every podcast. I think I bring something up that's just unbelievably terrible. And one thing that I saw that really struck me as some of the worst officiating of the year. I guess there was one play, but there was 2 calls on it that were just totally wrong by the officials. And it didn't affect the game because they were in the Buccaneers' favor as far as a completed catch, and they ended up losing anyway, so it didn't damage the Falcons' chances of winning. even though the call went against them. And it was a completed catch to Mike Evans, a wide receiver, who didn't catch the ball cleanly, yet they called it a catch on the field. I guess there was just that. It was clearly not a catch. He trapped the ball underneath him. I guess they never even reviewed it. Well, maybe they did review. I can't remember, but it should have been called incomplete on the field. They came back and said it was still good after reviewing it. I think that was my biggest concern. It's like, why are you even bothering reviewing stuff when you're going to review it and get it wrong? And then the biggest thing that I would complain about with the NFL, and if I was commissioner and had total power, I would change this. I would change the way that they play football. As far as the stadiums go, I would not have outdoor stadiums, and I would have artificial turf, because having outdoor stadiums and artificial turf, it's ruining the game. It's taking the ability for these super talented players to have a performance at the highest level. The Buccaneers and Falcons game it was after a bad storm on the weekend before. The field was just sloppy still, and people were slipping and falling everywhere. That's not what you want to see. You want to see the defenders and the running backs and everybody else have good footing so they can do the athletic things that they're paid to do and entertain us, not fall down and have a wide open pass that gets a touchdown because the defender slipped and fell because the field is bad. That's just pathetic to me. And we'll talk more about in the final game of the review, but I just, if I was in charge, I would make all the stadiums be domes, or at least have a cover, a roof that you could move back and forth. And I wouldn't allow to have real grass fields, because the grass in the fall dies. That's what it does. If you're in the upper Midwest, north climes, it's the grass goes dormant. So it's just, they basically paint green on the dirt and some of the sod, and it's not alive anymore. So it's not really, it's dumb to have real grass in outdoor stadiums. So there's my complaint for that. Anyway, moving on. Browns at Bears, got that W. Bears just totally dominated the Browns. Easy one. Ravens at Bengals. Had picked the Ravens to beat the Bengals at home, and that was a no-brainer too. The Bengals got shut out. Looked like they had quit on that game. Maybe the season too. I don't know if I'll pick the Bengals the rest of the year, just because they look bad. And I think even Joe Burrow, who's come back from injury and playing quarterback now, is complaining and saying he's not having fun playing football. And it's like, well, there you go. It's not a good look to make that statement. Maybe it's truthful, but maybe you don't want to make that statement when you're the quarterback and supposed leader of the team. Maybe when the season's over, but not during the season. Let me rephrase that. Bills at Patriots. I had picked the Bills, and this is where the officiating was really bad to me. And again, it didn't affect the outcome of the game, because the call went in the Patriots' favor, and the Patriots went on to go up 21-0 early or late in the second quarter, almost towards halftime. Bills finally scored a touchdown, but call came early. I think it was like in the first drive of the game, the Patriots had it, and the receiver going for the ball stepped out of bounds and then came back in and made a catch. And I put quotes around the word catch, because he didn't catch the ball. The ball hit the ground, and the Patriots team came running up there, and they got the snap off before there could be any review or challenge or any, I guess, look at it. And so the guy can't go out of bounds. The receiver can't go out of bounds and come back in bounds and be the first to catch it. That's illegal touching according to the rules. And then you got to catch the ball to get awarded a catch, and the ball clearly hit the ground. And so the rules that the NFL has, if you hurry up on your offense and get up there before anyone can look at it and snap it, even though the call is wrong, if they're going to allow that to happen, is such a bad rule. I just can't believe that that's something that goes on in modern sports when you want to get the calls right and have a quote unquote, again, fair game. And that's the funniest thing too, that even though that call went against the Bills came back and won this game in dramatic fashion. Good high scoring game, and not a driving snowstorm, but enough of a blowing snow and bad weather. And again, I don't want to see that. I want to be able to see the game clearly. I don't want people slipping around. I don't want to see these players that are not used to being cold, out in the cold and suffering, and not be able to live up to their excellent physical gifts that they have and be able to display them. I think it's just bad. I mean, sure, in the old days when you didn't have indoor stadiums, they didn't have the architecture back then in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, stuff like that. But we have it now. You have modern structures that can house 70,000 people, and you can watch a football game indoors and have controlled environment so that you can have the best at their best. So I don't know what we're doing. I just am totally against the stupidity of playing outdoor football, and with the terrible playing conditions that you have, and people slipping and falling down and injuring themselves, whatever it is. I think the NFL Players Association just should say, no, we're not doing this. You know, this is a rule for safety, and we're not going to participate if you don't have a decent stadium. So anyway, Redskins at Giants, that football game, I picked the Giants because I thought the Redskins had given up when they played the week before and got shut out by the Vikings. But they apparently were remotivated and came back and were able to beat the Giants somehow. The Giants were coming off a bye, and I guess it just shows you how much of a lack of talent the Giants have on their team. So they're years away, I guess, from maybe competing for a championship, if ever. Competing to get to the playoffs, maybe in a few years, but I don't know. We'll see. Like, they got interim coach. They fired their coach a couple weeks ago, whatever. Raiders played at Eagles, and Eagles won that game. I picked that one correctly, but Raiders looked like they had given up. They got shut out 31-0. It's just pathetic. They didn't even try, it seemed like. Cardinals played at Texans, and that was a little more scoring than I would have pictured. The Texans, I picked the Texans, and they won, but they gave up more points than I thought they might because they supposedly have the number one defense. Packers at Broncos, very highly competitive game in Denver. And I picked Denver, and they won. Big star for the Packers, the defensive end, the Micah Parsons, that they traded Dallas a bunch of players and number one picks to Dallas, because Dallas couldn't re-sign him. He was balking at re-signing under Jerry Jones, so that Jerry Jones traded him, and looks like Jerry Jones is a genius. And I agree with Jerry Jones to get rid of him, because you can't pay that kind of money to these guys. He was the highest paid. He signed the largest contract for a non-quarterback ever in the league, Micah Parsons, and he's hurt, tore his ACL, going to be out for probably 12 months. Might be coming back about this time next year to play. But bad luck, non-contact, just bad luck. So then you just I don't know. I just disagree with the evaluation of Micah Parsons' talent and the impact that he was having on the games. And everyone thought he was just this great player, but he had a little history of being injured. And it's sad to see. It's sad to see that they had that much money wrapped up in that guy. Just a total failure of management to be able to fork over that kind of money. So the Lions played the Rams. That was a good game. High scoring, back and forth offense, on both sides. I picked the Rams to win at home, and they won. It was pretty close, pretty competitive game. Lions led most of that game, but then gave up too many points at the end. Rams had a couple of injuries to their star wide receivers, so we'll see how that goes. I think Puka Nacua, he'll be okay, but Devontae Adams had a hamstring. He went down kind of in a heap and been nursing that hamstring. So if he's not 100%, I think that's really could set them back. So we'll see. But I still think the Rams, if I was going to make a bet, and I don't encourage betting, if I was going to make a bet on the Super Bowl winner for this year, I'd pick the Rams if you made me make a pick. So Panthers played at the Saints. The Panthers were coming off a bye, a clear favorite on that game, and I picked the Panthers. So obviously they lost and the Saints won. And it's just, a head shaker, head scratcher there. Titans played at 49ers. 49ers had a bye. I picked 49ers and they won. And the Titans scored like 24 points against the 49ers. I don't know if 49ers were putting some subs in at the end, gave up points, but I don't know. Titans are terrible. Colts at Seahawks. This was the game of the week because Phillip Rivers came out of retirement. Hadn't played football in 5 years. Had like 4 days of practice and just about won that game up in Seattle. Seahawks kicked 6 field goals and had a last-second game-winning field goal to beat Phillip Rivers and the Colts. And I think the Seahawks have plateaued, and I think they might be on their way down. We'll see. They have a tough game coming up, and I'll talk about that when I make my picks. But got 2 more games to go over, and these are the most exciting games. The Vikings at the Cowboys. So I, of course, was declaring the Vikings in the bottom 5 teams. And, of course, Cowboys had just a slight chance to make the playoffs, and the Vikings go down to Dallas and beat them, and just beat them pretty good. I mean, it seemed like they were dominating for the most part in the Sunday night game, football night in America. Dallas was trying to show the country in their primetime game that they were going to be able to compete, sneak in as the Philadelphia Eagles were struggling, and the Cowboys had beaten Kansas City and Philadelphia, the previous Super Bowl teams from last year. Cowboys get beat by the Vikings. It was just a laugh out loud game because of that. And then finally last night was the Dolphins at Steelers Monday Night Football. And I think the kickoff, it was 18 degrees at the Steelers Stadium in Pittsburgh. And just again, this is the example of why are they playing outdoors? It's no fun to watch. People are the players are just suffering. The field is terrible. I don't know. I mean, I picked the Steelers and they won. They beat the Dolphins, the sunshine team from, Miami, where it's still 75 degrees for highs down there. I just totally disagree with this philosophy that they should be playing outdoor football. Be like the Vikings and the Cowboys have this super spectacular stadium. I've been to the Cowboy Stadium, which is AT&T Stadium, Jerry Jones World down there that he built. And I've been to the new Minnesota Vikings Bank of America Stadium? Like, here it's this fantastic architectural feat, but I don't know. Complain some more. I could never support the public paying for these things and having a tax to pay for the NFL stadium. That's just ridiculous. That's a travesty and a gross misuse of public funding in my book. I think it should be criminal. Especially if you're the NFL, where you're making billions of dollars a year in revenue. You're not just squeaking by, you're making billions. I guess that's the thing too. Like, even they had a Super Bowl. Usually the Super Bowls are down south. Now they're in early February where it's still wintertime in the northern states. There's going to be snow. And then they played a Super Bowl actually I don't know how long it was, 10 years ago almost now, when they played in New York at it's in New Jersey was where the stadium is located, but it's cold weather, but you could have snow, and no one wants to see that. No one wants to suffer through that as fans. So have indoor stadiums. So they had the Super Bowl up in Minnesota after. Usually if you build a new stadium, the Super Bowl will visit your stadium within 3 to 5 years. and I think it's out at the new stadium in Santa Clara, California with 49ers this year. They have an outdoor stadium, which is stupid again, even though it's in California. You have this NFL is a TV game now. So it's a lot of times now the visuals are distorted because you have big shadows across the field and you can't see because the cameras, the lenses can't, it's half in bright sun and half in shade. So that it just doesn't come through on the TV very good. But if you have a dome stadium, it's, it's perfect picture. It's perfect when you're trying to watch it and see it on TV. And I don't know. I don't know how we can continue to do this as a public consumer of this. And I guess maybe that's why I'm probably not going to be consuming very much in the near future. I didn't even watch the game last night, the Dolphins and Steelers. I guess I turned it on before I went for supper, but it was just not interesting to me. But anyway, I wanted to comment on the Steelers. Steelers are getting in shape to maybe make the playoffs, and they have tradition there in Pittsburgh where the Steelers between the third and fourth quarter they play "Renegade" by Styx, that song written by Tommy Shaw of Styx, and then on his own he had a couple hits as a solo act himself. But I thought this was when they played that "Renegade" song, trying to fire up and pump up the crowd in close games. And I guess previously they've been booing, the fans have been booing that, complaining about how terrible the Pittsburgh Steelers have been performing, and they're trying to get their Mike Tomlin, the head coach, fired. They wish he would be fired. But anyway, I thought this is a good crossover topic for my recurring podcast segments because it's a music update, it's an NFL update, and it's a verbal abuse update. So the lyrics of the song "Renegade" by Styx, it goes, "The jig is up, the news is out, they finally found me. The renegade who had it made, retrieved for a bounty, never more to go astray. This will be the end today of the wanted man, the wanted man." So anyway, I don't know if I think I went through this and it talked about the jig is up. So that's a part of the verbal abuse, and I've been hearing people say the gig is up, and that's not the saying. It's the jig is up. So I thought that was a good opportunity to bring that back into touching. It's like a touchstone for three of my recurring subjects: the verbal abuse, NFL update, and the music update. And I thought I just have to put that on there because of the Steelers and their tradition of playing that songs. Anyway, that's it. That's the review. Now on to week 16, where I'm going to again say I never had a perfect week, but this is finally the time to do it. Probably not, but no, I'll make my picks here and we'll go over the picks. I don't know if I make much comment more than just making the picks because I don't know what else to say about these. I mean, we're at week 16. More can I say? This is 3 weeks left. We got 16, 17, 18. I think it's full slate the rest of the way too. It's going to be weird because we have Christmas games. And I think this weekend we actually have Saturday games. I think one of the big games on Saturday night is, I think I heard it, Packers at Bears. Oh, and that's a big, huge competitive game for the North Division in the NFC. Anyway, Thursday night football, a couple nights from now, Rams at Seahawks. I'm picking the Rams. Seahawks have been struggling. Should have lost that game last week. I don't know. I think that, but even with the Rams injuries, I don't know. Sam Darnold at quarterback for the Seahawks. I think he's going to collapse under the pressure of a big game. And this is going to be a big game because this is going to help determine who might be the number one seed for the NFC and get that first round bye. We'll see. I mean, I may be totally wrong, but I just see Sam Darnold not being able to cut it at the highest level. Maybe he'll make me eat my words. Love to see it. Eagles at Redskins. Eagles supposedly got right by beating the Raiders. I'm picking the Eagles. I think I mentioned I'm picking the Rams in that first game. So second game, I'm picking the Eagles to beat the Redskins. I don't think the Redskins have any talent left. They got so many injuries. No chance. There's no chance, but there's always a chance in the NFL. So I say no chance, but I don't believe that the Eagles will allow themselves to stoop to that level. They could. They could, but I don't think they will. Packers at Bears. I'm going to pick the Bears just because they're playing at home, and the Packers had a couple injuries, including Micah Parsons, which I talked about. I think that the typical thing that statistically happens in the division is because you play at home and you play away each team each year. The Packers were able to win at their home stadium, so I think the Bears playing the Packers will win in Chicago. So I'm picking the Bears. Chargers at Cowboys. I think if I hadn't watched the Vikings dominate the Cowboys this last weekend, I probably would have picked the Cowboys. But the Chargers have a lot more to play for. Not sure that they have more talent necessarily. I think they're better coached, and I think the Cowboys have zero to play for. They have such a minuscule chance of still making the playoffs. I think Eagles will have to lose every game, Cowboys have to win every game, and other stuff would have to happen. So I don't think the motivation is going to be there for the Cowboys. I mean, it could happen, but I would be surprised. I wouldn't be shocked, but I would still be a little bit surprised if the Cowboys could win that game. Chiefs at Titans. I talked about the Chiefs game last week. Did I even mention that? Maybe it wasn't even on my list here. Yeah. Chiefs are playing at the Titans, and Patrick Mahomes tore his ACL, and so he's going to be out until probably a year from now. This time next year. So I don't know why I'm picking the Chiefs, because they got a better coach, but they have Gardner Minshew the third as their quarterback, and he was terrible. He's a bad quarterback. He's not even a good backup quarterback. And the Titans, I believe, are the worst team in the league. So that's why I just can't pick the Titans to ever win a game. So I'm picking the Chiefs. That doesn't make sense, but that's what I'm doing. Bengals at Dolphins. Dolphins have been eliminated. Bengals are eliminated. I'm going to pick the Bengals just because I think Joe Burrow had such a bad game. He doesn't want to go out at the end of the year with that bad taste in his mouth. So I'm going to pick the Bengals. Jets at Saints. Jets are just not good. Saints have been winning some games in their division, beating Tampa Bay and Carolina in the last 2 weeks, really throwing a monkey wrench into that division, NFC South. I'm gonna pick the Saints, but I wouldn't be surprised if if Cinderella turns into a pumpkin, if that's actually a saying. I don't think that's the actual what happened. I think her carriage, wasn't that their carriage turned from a pumpkin to a carriage? Does it turn back at midnight? So anyway, I digress. I'm going to pick the Saints, but I have no reason, no justification for doing that, really, and I would not be surprised if they lost. Vikings at Giants, same thing. Vikings and Giants both eliminated. I'll be surprised. I'll be surprised if maybe this game will be a tie. That would not surprise me. I'm picking the Vikings, but both teams are not good. Vikings have better coaching, I believe, more talent, more healthy talent, so they should win this game on paper, but we'll see. I have no confidence in this pick at all. Yet I'm picking the Vikings. Buccaneers at Panthers. Buccaneers have there's no way that they've earned my pick. Yet I'm picking them just because I think they have a better just a better system in place at this time and place. Their head coach is a defensive coach, and he went on a tirade of cursing last week after the game after they lost because the defense had no business. They were up by 14 in the fourth quarter and lost that game due to their bad defense. And I think that's just a knife in the heart of his coaching ego, that the defense, because he's a defensive coach, is losing the games for them. So I'm going to say that they're motivated properly this week and they'll beat the Panthers on the road up in Carolina, Buccaneers. And the rest of the, let's see, I'm picking all home teams except 49ers, which could be a mistake. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Jaguars at Broncos, good game on paper. Picking the Broncos. Falcons at Cardinals, good game on paper. Meaningless. I'm picking the Cardinals just because I think their offenses might be a little hotter and they're playing at home. And when there's no meaning left, why would you want to travel and want to play? So just like one less reason to have a good game. One more excuse. Oh, we're on the road. We can lose. No big deal. Picking Cardinals. Steelers at Lions. This is a big game for both teams because both teams the Steelers are in the playoffs right now. Lions outside the playoffs looking in. They need this game to even have a chance. I think Lions will put it on the Steelers. Steelers just not a good team. I just stared at this Raiders at Texans. Why? The Raiders are so bad and they have to go to the Texans. The Raiders offense is so bad. The Texans defense, so good. Number one defense, probably the worst against the worst offense. I'm picking Texans. This could be another shutout. Raiders might be shut out back-to-back games. That would be something. Patriots at Ravens. I guess this is a Sunday night game. I don't know if they flexed this game. I think they did to put this into the primetime Sunday game. Football night in America. Patriots at Ravens. And I am a sucker. So I'm going to pick the Ravens just because the Ravens critically need this game to have a chance to maintain their playoff hunt against the Steelers. So I'm going to pick the Ravens in an upset, really. I think the Patriots are probably favored. Patriots best, top record or tied for the top 3 or 4 teams, best record in the league. But I'm going Ravens. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for the idea that the NFL has little planning and manipulation going on here to make it more interesting for playoffs and make the viewers tune in to watch the teams compete and maybe make the playoffs or, die trying to make the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm picking the Ravens. And finally, 49ers at Colts, Monday Night Football. And Phillip Rivers, I believe I heard he is starting again. 49ers, different style of football, just so physical. I see 49ers winning this game, but I think the NFL would love to see the Colts win. Old man Rivers win this game. 49ers still have a chance. I think they will make the playoffs, but they're still competing for that NFC West battle with the Rams and Seahawks. So if they win and Seahawks win, it could be this real weird potential tie in tiebreaker situation for those teams in the NFC West. I don't know. There's some good games coming up next week. Not just this week. I'm looking forward to seeing some of these schedules, but anyway, we'll see how it goes. 16 games, no buys. I believe that's the way it is for the rest of the season, I believe. So it's a lot of action going on here in the next couple Sundays. Oh, I think maybe I'm missing a game. I think I had a missing game before for last week. I was going back and looking for my. Oh no, I had it marked correctly. Chargers at Chiefs, but I seem to be missing a game here. I'm gonna have to go to my phone and see if I have what I'm missing on this thing. So I'm looking at the numbers. I only have 16 games up there. Rams, Eagles, Bears. Oh, Bills at Browns. That's what I'm missing. So I have to make that pick. That's up in here someplace. Oh, the Bills at Browns. That's an easy pick. Bills. Browns are terrible. Glad I caught that. So you can keep me honest on my picks. I'm going Bills. Easy peasy. Good job, Greg. Way to catch that. Anyway, that's the NFL update for the week. I think I went through. I had a lot of stuff to go through, and I have this thing laying around here, and I wanted to be able to put it away. So I'm going to go through one of my segments, recurring segments that I've been pushing off, but I'm going to talk about it this week. And it's the Look What I Found. This is the new segment. I think I've only done this one other time, so I'm going to go. This is the second one. Look what I found. Found this on the street when I was out walking. This is a locking pin of some kind. I was thinking maybe it was for, or what I'm picturing is it's a pin for when you have ramps on a trailer and you lift up the ramps and you try to hold them in place, and you put this pin in there. This pin's a little different because it's got a flat side. It's not circular pin at all. It's round all the way around, but then it's got a flat side. And a lot of locking pins like this will have little ball bearing type spring loaded ball, like a ball bearing to ease in and have that last click to hold it in place. And maybe that's why this fell out, because it didn't have that. So it fell out on the street, and who knows what kind of safety issue that was causing. Hopefully the trailer didn't fall down and cause a big wreck or something. But I found this at the intersection near my house, just laying in the street. And I picked it up and brought it home so I could say, look what I found. Interesting thing. Got ran over a few times, so it's kind of scuffed up and kind of got some edges on it, but good locking pin just in case I ever need one. And I'm not sure if that's where it says India on it right here. I don't know if you're watching this, you can see I'm pointing on the inside of the pin itself. There's a loop ring so you can easily pull it out. It's not on the ring part, it's on the actual pin part. So I don't know if it's made in India, but look what I found. Free pin. If I ever need one, I have one. So I got that set aside. Now I can put that away back in the toolbox in case, so I know where it is if I ever need it. And got that taken care of finally, so I can get it out of the way from just laying on the desktop up to my side over here. But I don't know. Let's call the music update too. I'm gonna save my verbal abuse section because that one's. Maybe want to talk a little longer about that one, but and then I did something, but I'm going to save that too because that's a good discussion, and just save it for the future discussions. I might do it. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I did, but I think I'm going to do a podcast for the next chapter on Thursday or Friday. The next chapter it's called The Dear Sam from Peever Slough. That's chapter 18. This is like, it's the linchpin of the whole memoir, I think. So not the locking pin, but the linchpin. So I don't know. It is kind of a locking pin. You pull it out, it unlocks the whole thing. So I'm hoping to do that on Thursday or Friday. Like I said, we'll get that put into electronic record, and maybe we'll finish the whole volume 1 memoir before the new year so that I can start the year fresh with volume 2, season 2 of the podcast, and get working on that. But so I'm going to save the verbal abuse topic till then. But I did want to bring this up because this again, I can't help myself but just having a good smile and laugh when I see the white book that's not sun faded like the poster behind the old Christmas tree, aluminum Christmas tree from the 1950s and 60s, that modern Jetsons Christmas tree back there. Love that thing too. That's just perfect. So anyway, this is my book, Long Hollow, a Charlie LeBeau mystery. This was the first in the series, and I have big plans for next year. I think I'm going to try to get the final two books of the series completed for the Charlie LeBeau mystery series, and that'll wrap up the series as far as I can tell for now. I'll be content to call that wrapped up. I am going to not foreclose on that. I may reopen the series and maybe go back in time and write some in-between mysteries. But the final book, I think, I do kind of have some good closure for it. And the final 2 books, I think, are probably, I think they've gotten better. They might probably the best work of the series. Although this book, when I first wrote it, it was so fresh and seemed like it came to me very easily and clearly. So I do recommend these books. I think they're worthwhile. Long Hollow. I mean, you gotta love the name of that too. That's Long Hollow. It's a very descriptive title. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. This isn't anywhere near that. I mean, it's a totally different genre. I mean, that's a pretty good book. Who wrote that? Is it Washington Irving? Is that right? Probably a different level as a novelist than me. I'm guessing. I'm not going to say who's better, but you can probably make your guess. Not The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, Long Hollow. Maybe I should have said The Legend of Long Hollow. Maybe I could have tricked people into buying it thinking they're getting that book. Next time, when it comes out in the revised 2nd edition, maybe I'll do that. Anyway, I'm just holding that book up for the people only listening and not watching. You're missing out on my great advertising machinations of trying to sell. I'm not a very good salesman. I should be doing better. I'm covering up my name too. There's Gregory L. Heitmann. Anyway, I did that. Checked that off in the notes. Completed that for my manager. Sales plug. So let me check my final notes here and see what else I want to include. I do. That's it. I'm gonna wrap it up. No, I can't wrap it up because I have to get this in because it's a musical update. It's a seasonal musical update, the Christmas musical update, and I want to just comment on a couple songs that you hear during this season, Christmas season, and I thought I just had to bring them up and then make my comment. And the first song is Sleigh Ride, and it's the one that I'm referring to. The one I think I hear most frequently is it's by the Boston Pops Orchestra, written by Leroy Anderson. So he has his own version. He wrote it and then he covered it. He covered his own work. I guess you can't really cover your own work, can you? I mean, you just create it. So he composed that song, and then he released different versions. But what I really like about the song, it's like a big orchestral song. It's just instrumental. There's actual words to the Sleigh Ride song. I don't know if he wrote words to it too, or if he wrote it just the music as an instrumental, and then later someone put some words to it. I should have researched that. It's like typical for this podcast. I haven't done a lot of good research, but I will say that I like that song, and I think my favorite part is at the end when they have the trumpet and it's like a horse that whinnies. Listen to that and make sure if you hear that song, listen for it at the end, and hopefully they don't talk over it if it's on the radio or anything like that, because that's the best part when they have this. It's like you're in a sleigh ride, you're being pulled by a one horse open sleigh, like the Jingle Bells or whatever. But um, now I sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger talking about the Jingle Bells. That's pretty good imitation, I must say. I must say. Anyway, we're really running out of steam with the podcast. And like maybe I'm just delirious from the bright lights on me today. So, but the other one I wanted to mention, because I don't know where it came up. I guess we were talking about it at supper last week or the week before. It's it's the song "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch," and we were talking about that. It's a that's a good Christmas song. I mean, it's a seasonal. It's not a good Christmas song because it's talking about a mean Grinch, and it's funny how that's come into the lexicon of American language, where you're a Grinch. That means it's like a Scrooge, I guess. You're anti-Christmas, I guess. That's what it means. You hate Christmas. You're opposite of Christmas spirit. But the singer of that song, with his deep bass voice, his name is Thurl, Thurl, Thurl Ravencroft. And I don't know, that the Ravencroft name, that's a classic name. It sounds more like more like a Harry Potter character than actual name, but apparently he was born in Norfolk, Nebraska, and made his way to Hollywood to do as a singer. And what you may not know is that's the same guy that did the Frosted Flakes Tony the Tiger character. He said, "They're great." So we've come full circle from my initial podcast where I jokingly said I was sponsored by Frosted Flakes and they're great. So now seasonally I've come full circle to have Thurl Ravencroft in his "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch" and Tony the Tiger, they're great. So I feel somewhat that I've squared the circle, as they say, which makes no sense. I don't like that saying. That should be a verbal abuse topic. But I've come full circle in this Christmas season, in my podcast season. Even though we're not done with the season, but we're getting very close to being done with this first season of the podcast. And I feel like it's just everything's come together finally for this situation, to have the Grinch and Tony the Tiger and Thurl Ravencroft and a guy named Leroy Anderson being talked about in the musical update of this podcast. And I feel fulfilled. That's a tongue twister. That should be like a warm-up exercise before I get on the air. I can just say that like 5 times fast and get ready for the podcast. So in the future, maybe I'll start the podcast and I'll be saying that, and then I'll just break into it, the introduction next time. So anyway, I got a couple of things on on my notes that I'm not going to do until Thursday or Friday, I think, this week. I'm going to do the next chapter, and we don't have to worry about NFL picks or anything like that. So it'll be wide open space to have a good just open podcast and not have the 600-pound gorilla in the room of the NFL looming over my shoulder, making me make picks and criticizing them. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to say see you next time. Stay positive, be assertive, take action, glass half full, enjoy the holiday season. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. As they say, Christmas, you can say say Happy Christmas and Merry Christmas again, because we're not going to be mad at you for, using flexibility in English language to convey good tidings for the year. You don't have to say good tidings or happy holidays. You can be more specific. Merry Christmas. You can have a Merry Christmas, everyone. So anyway, see you next time. Be assertive, be positive, Be proactive. You take the action. And before I see you next time, I'm going to sign off with this. Knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek, and you will find. Ask, and you shall be given. That's it. Thanks for joining the podcast. If you have comments, questions, feel free to contact me through my email. I don't know if there's comments. You can just comment into this, how you're hearing this. If not, you can go to my website, and my email is listed there. And that's www.thegman.com. If you want to be able to email me anything, questions or comments, criticisms, or if you're on YouTube, you can just put comments in the YouTube comment section, and I will be. I think I get notified when they're there, so I can go look at them, and it won't be like that. I won't be timely in the response. But anyway, I appreciate you listening, and hope you're enjoying it as much as I do as far as the podcast goes. And check out the video podcast because you can see my Minnesota Twins shirt today too. That's it. I think I've dragged on the goodbye long enough. I said goodbye. I'm not saying goodbye. I'm just going to say see you next time. Thanks again for listening. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. See you next time.